Do you guys want to see my strike sign?
Okay.
I gotta just understand what's going on. I mean, I didn't even know nurses could strike.
Well, they sure can. All right, you gotta read it slowly. Ready? Because it says a lot.
Ascension is spending more money, blocking its nurses out than they did
my God.
to stop a rapist from coming in.
Whoa, that's pretty heavy accusation.
That's a lot of text.
I'm gonna bend down and pick up the
That
gauntlet.
actually happened 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
Somebody came into and raped 3 patients.
What?
Yes.
In the same
Not
night?
someone who was
That's
a
why
rapist.
I'm saying this. No, he raped 3
in the
people
hospital.
In the hospital.
In the same night?
Yes.
Holy Viagra.
That's why I'm saying this is a wild story.
Wow.
So,
well, somehow
But is that connected to the strike?
Well, that's kind of, yeah.
okay,
You went
so
on strike because of that safety?
here's
Yeah.
the deal.
like a valid reason.
Here's the deal, because I can sense, my spidey sense is picking up that Desiree is ready to rock on this. And so when
Well,
we
I don't
start,
really know. I don't know. I don't know. How do you guys want to go with this? Do you guys want to talk about like?
well, I need you to explain it because I have zero.
Well, I
Right.
have no
don't
idea
really
what's
have a
going on.
direction. I just kind of like threw the topic out there. This is what I thought was relevant about the strike situation is that can you hear me? Because I can't even hear myself.
No, we can hear you.
Okay. Like UPS is threatening to go on strike. Starbucks is on strike. Amazon is on strike. European Union or whatever, all the workers of Europe. I don't know how they do their thing, but they all were just on strike. There's a lot of people out there fucking doing strike shit.
What I would suggest, let's start with your story, and then we'll expand to the other strikes going on.
Okay.
Wow, man. Workers of the world unite.
See, I'm going to probably be the outlier. I'll bet Mike has a differing opinion, but I'm for unions.
Yeah, me too. To an extent.
It's kind of like abortion. I mean, I'm for it up to a level.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not
in your case. I'm completely for
Guys, we haven't even said hello yet. Come on, you
Where
gotta
is
say
Jack?
this. This is too much good stuff to be wasting in the
Jack?
Oh,
preamble.
wait, you're recording it, Mike, so you got it.
Wait, where's Jack?
You guys are giving up all the best parts.
That was
I got like abortion is like what? Strike?
Abortion's like unions, not for everyone.
Man. I mean, when I think I know what's going on. All right. Ow.
I guess Jack will hop in, or he's gonna text us that he's got fucking MRSA or some shit.
Too dark.
Yeah, I can't make it in tonight. I'm dying. Yeah.
Don't joke about that.
I don't know why I do this.
What?
This whole podcast thing. I don't know why I do it.
It's so
You
fun.
love it.
I love it. I do love it.
It's the only way you get to hang with your pals.
Yeah, it's true. You know, I saw this guy who I used to work with, I guess, maybe for. I think he was my superior, and he does a podcast now, or it's a show. And how many subscribers? He has like 60,000 subscribers or something.
What?
He's a great guy. Look, he's a great guy. Like, he and I don't always get along, but that's fine. But he's a very smart dude. He's a very good guy. But so I watch his shows sometimes, and I don't know. I like ours better. I like ours better.
podcast. This is episode 124. 124?
124.
Anyone?
124.
Anyone? 124. Tonight is going to be Des running the show. She's going to be at the wheel, and we are going to talk about something that is intimate to her at this point in time, and that is unions and strikes. Apparently in the news lately, there's been a lot of strikes, and one of them happens to be in the little town in Kansas called Wichita.
It's not little.
Kind of big.
And it's probably not actually Wichita. It's probably a neighboring city. But anyway, Des, go for it.
Well, thanks, Zeus. I'll take it from here.
Hi, Desiree. How you doing?
Hi, Michael. Hi, Thomas. How are y'all doing today? Hey. So yeah, because we half the time don't know really what to talk about until like the day before. And the day before, I was getting ready to go on this strike that I went on today. That's what we get to talk about today, is strikes and unions and all the things, good and bad.
Sweet.
And all the things in the news. If anybody hasn't heard out there, which, I mean, I guess probably not, a lot of people haven't, but maybe because it's topical to me, I see it on news forums and newspapers and things, but the Ascension, Kansas and Texas strikes. You guys heard anything about that at all?
Zero.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so Ascension is actually one of the largest hospital chains in the country, but only it was like Ascension, which in that there's two hospitals in Wichita, St. Joseph and St. Francis, and Ascension Seton in Austin, Texas, that went on strike today. So that's what we did. But yeah, so Zeus, you have experience with the unions. This is like my first experience with the union type situations, but share a little bit of your experience.
Yeah, so I worked for Kaiser Permanente, and this is crazy because even for like the call center guys, like all we did was like pre-triage kind of stuff. Like we'd be like, do you have a cough? Are you having difficulty breathing? We'd set things up for a nurse. So this is like basic customer service rep kind of stuff. But we were union. We were like, and the weird thing about unions is like, we were unions, but we were like part of the same union as Safeway, which is a grocery store out here.
Mm-hmm.
And like the nurses were part of a union that was like, Steelworkers of America. Like, like the connections are very bizarre. But my opinion on unions is, yes, they may drive costs up for certain things because unions tend to be with high industry, they're massive generally. But my experience was good. And I was not the best union member ever. Like my first month that I was there, I watched some dude clock another dude. And I was supposed to be like defending the guy that got clocked, but the guy that clocked him was kind of in the right. So they're like, they'll guide you. They'll be like, so when he unabashedly mashed this guy in the face, I'm like, well, it didn't quite happen that way. Well, but let me just refresh your memory. Remember when he hit the guy and the guy wasn't looking? I'm like, no. They were definitely looking at each other. Like I was not their best witness. But I mean, at least the union rep in our office at the time respected the fact that I wasn't gonna, kowtow. They were cool. But so I like unions because it does keep the company a little more honest. And especially in a state like Virginia, where it's a right to work state, meaning basically they can fire you at any time. The union kind of nullifies that a little. So they have to actually, if they want to fire you, they generally have a good reason. Now, the flip side to that is you got to stay within like the union rules, and you got to, like where I work, man, there was like time management on like fascist levels. Like your 15-minute break, if you were 15:01, they were riding you about being 15:01. So that part's a little bad, but I was also a customer service rep, and I was close to 80 a year. So that's not bad. And the job was not hard. It was relentless, but it was manageable. So as far as unions go,
there's good things
Go
and
ahead.
bad things.
Mm-hmm.
yes, absolutely.
No, wait a minute. Can I jump in here? Because Des started the show saying that she went on strike today, but then we kind of left that.
Well, I
Yeah,
just
I'm
kinda,
like,
well,
wait a
I
minute.
wanted to get everyone's
Why
opinion
did you go
first.
on strike
Hold on,
today?
I wanted to get that's called introducing the story and then leaving
Introducing
you on
the story.
introducing the story and then leaving you on the edge. So Tom, what's your viewpoint about unions?
I'm like this guy. No, this guy over here with the
Lockout.
lockouts.
Mhm.
And this guy is over here with the strike. I don't know. I've never been in a union, so and I'm not qualified to be in one. We won't get into those
Mhm.
You're
details,
very
but
qualified to have a job.
Yeah, the CIA does
Barely.
not have a union, which is a lot of people don't know that.
The
But
union for
CIA
CIAs.
agents are not
we do
unionized.
club a lot of people over the head, but not
Mhm.
Yep.
as
No, that's the
union
FBI.
not union activity.
Yeah, it's not union related.
Well,
So what's your opinion?
so this whole journey, I've talked to Zeus about this before. This whole journey, I grew up in California. Okay, a lot of my family members have been part of unions, and they're not really that fond of them. They understand they exist. You know what? You join the union, that's kind of just what you do. But a lot of times, especially large unions that have been around for a long time, especially companies that are like union companies that you have to join the union when you get that job. A lot of them can become just as corrupt as the organization. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they're good and they have good things and they have bad things, just like everything else. So to back up just a little bit, and back in November, my hospital actually organized a union. Then you have to go on and sign your union cards if you want to like be part of the union. I am not part of the union. Okay. I did not sign a union card. I know. Seems weird, right? Because up until
No,
like
totally fine.
end of last week, I was like, still on the fence. Okay, so then they announced, they're going through like these bargaining things, the bargaining team in the hospital, whatever.
Collective bargaining agreement.
The collective bargaining unit.
The
process.
bean counters.
Yes. Hey, we want this. Well, we don't want to give you that. We'll give you this, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Now, apparently in that, there's some rules. No, because we haven't even got there yet, Zeus.
Okay.
We've not even gotten there.
Let it roll, man. I gotta hear this.
I'm sorry.
So in collective bargaining, there's like rules you have to follow. There are certain things you have to bargain on, and there's certain things that you could bargain on. But there's a subset of the issues that if you don't bargain on those things, then you can be considered not bargaining in good faith. So bad faith bargaining. This is what Ascension is doing. So they've only really been doing this since February, and they've had, multiple meetings, and Ascension wants to bargain with like on things like jury duty and who's going to pay the price to print the contract and who's going to, shit that's not
Just dumb.
Just stupid. We don't care about that.
Power
Nickel and
person.
diming. Yeah.
Yeah, well, if they don't bargain in good faith or bad faith bargaining, then you can go on strike. You can say, okay, well, you're not, you're practicing unfair labor practices, and then you can go on strike. A lot of times when you see other places going, like the Steelworkers of America or whatever, they go on strike because their contracts have ended, and so they want different terms in their contracts. They want more money. They want more benefits. They want Saturdays off every third Saturday, whatever they want. They're usually striking for those reasons. But since we've never had a contract before, and Ascension is bargaining in bad faith, we are considered unfair labor practice striking. Okay. Now,
Can I ask a question here?
yes.
Because I know some places can't, like the police cannot strike, or they're not supposed to, because they're needed for public service.
Mm-hmm.
So are nurses, you're a nurse though. Are you allowed to strike?
Yeah, I'm not.
What happens to the patients?
Well, I don't work for the VA, so therefore I'm not a government employee.
No, you work for the
For the
hospital.
VA, yeah,
right?
the VA couldn't go on strike like the Veterans Affairs Hospital. You know, the VA.
Okay,
Yeah.
but you still work in a hospital. And so
Yeah.
what happened? Who takes care of the patients if you're on strike?
It's not really my problem. They'll figure it out.
What do you
But
mean it's
you-
not your problem?
I don't know in the
It's
hospital.
not, but here, I got a quick
Well, let me
question.
rewind. That was maybe kind of rude. So what the hospital, you have to give them a notice when you're going to go on strike because they have
Right.
to have they have a contingency
You
plan in
kick
place.
out
and
all
what
the
they-
patients.
is they bring
No.
in
Other nurses, scabs.
yeah, they bring in strike
Scabs.
nurses. They call them scabs. I don't really think that's a good. I don't know why there's such like a beef with it. I think it's actually good because if there wasn't that group of that workforce, then no nurses would be able to go on strike. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're
Right.
really
They're
expensive.
probably
These
being
are
paid
not cheap.
more. And they're being
They are
paid
not
more.
cheap. They're
Yeah.
getting paid like $15,000 for 5 days of work.
Can I ask you a quick question just for the noobs out there in podcast land?
Mhm.
Are you, and I don't mean this to be personal, but are you a contract employee or are you a at-will employee?
So, yeah, I'm an at-will employee.
Okay. So it's not a contract that the union is having a beef with. It's just conditions in general. Right? I mean, you're an at-will employee.
Well, I think
Yes.
she's planning on getting into why there.
Well,
Okay.
yeah. So when you look at terms of employment, you have your at-will employer, which is what most people are if you live in the United States. You can get fired for any reason. You can also quit for any reason. You don't have to give notice. You know, whatever, within limits. Okay, but if you're a union employee, then you are a part of the collective bargaining unit. However, depending on what your union and your workplace is, like the one that we have, it's National Nurses United. That situation set up is they do protect all workers at the workplace if it's a unionized workplace.
Right.
You don't have to be a part of the union. Now, there are certain benefits you don't get, like you can't like request the union rep when you're getting reprimanded or anything. That's pretty much it. You can't vote in union votes. Okay. If you don't care to do those things, then you don't have to be a part of the union.
Right.
But when the collective bargaining unit gets a contract together, you still get to benefit from that contract.
Right. They negotiate higher pay. You would get the higher pay as well, even if
Yeah.
you're not in the union.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Mhm. Yeah.
But you're not protected by the union, and that's the caveat.
I mean, I guess
Kind
I'm
of.
not
But you
protected
kind
by
of
the union.
are.
I mean,
Yeah,
really, Weingarten Weingarten laws rules. I don't know. Are really the only thing that you don't get, and you don't get to vote in elections. So, I mean,
and that was my experience with my union. Is even if you like, because you could hire on and not be part of the union,
Mhm.
and you really still reaped all the benefits that the
Mhm.
union employees did.
Right.
But
That's
when it came to somebody wanting to fire you, the union didn't protect you. But
Right.
it didn't necessarily mean also that you'd be fired. It just meant that you didn't have that added cushion of the union really going to bat for you. And that's where unions are great. They really do, in my experience at least, really go to bat in those situations where you're being unjustly vilified for whatever reason.
but my opinion
That's
is
my
unjustly vilify me because I'll just sue the fuck out of you.
Yeah,
Fire me
it's
for some
but you-
stupid shit.
so a right to work state basically means you don't have to be part of it. Being a member of the union is not a condition of employment. But even if you're not a member of a union, you could still fall within their collective bargaining rules.
They will
And
not protect you. They will not do anything legal.
I got you, but you're also not paying necessarily dues. And
Mm-mm.
again, you're not paying dues, right, Desiree?
No.
right. That's
Okay,
really
so
the
but
biggest.
you can still take advantage of the collective bargaining agreement. But if
Yes.
there's an issue, they're not going to send their lawyers to protect you. So I mean, so Kansas is a right to work state, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so not every place is like that. Some places and some industries, like the education industry in Maryland, you have to be part of the union.
Well,
you
and
don't
see,
have a choice.
I don't think that's the right to work because before you're a
I don't think
union,
right to work has to do with
you're
it.
right to work. So I think it has to do with, because there's 4 different types of unions. There's like union shop, open shop, closed shop, shared shop, or whatever. There's 4 different types of, situations that you can be in when you join a union. It could be you get a job, you have to join the union. And it's a condition of your employment. If you don't want to be in the union, then just beat feet down the road and get a different job. It could be like how ours is, where you don't have to join it, but you're still protected by the union, by the collective bargaining unit.
Correct.
Or there could be a situation where you have to join within so many days of employment. Or there could be a situation where you still have to pay union dues, but you still don't have to be a member. So it's just different how every, I guess, union is set up and run,
Yeah.
The reason why unions, again, to be the if I'm debating this, like supporting unions, the reason why unions are fantastic is you have many industries that are specialized in a certain field, but they're not necessarily business majors. They're not lawyers. And so when there's these contracts being negotiated, it's nice to pool all those people together in a bargaining standpoint and being of the same voice, and then giving that power over to lawyers from the union, people in the union that can negotiate on your behalf, because supposedly they are specialists in law and negotiating and business and things along those lines. So, it's otherwise, if you are say you're a nurse and you're not a member of a union, or you're not protected by collective bargaining, this huge hospital company, I mean, they have lawyers, they have people that are super sophisticated at negotiating stuff. So you're supposed to go up, like as Desiree, you're supposed to go up against them individually. Mm-hmm. I mean, so the beauty of a union is you pool your resources and you hire your own big gun, basically, to negotiate with these large companies. I mean, that's the plus. I mean, that's the promise, right? I mean, that's the sales pitch.
That's the dream. That's in a perfect world.
Correct. But it doesn't always work out that way.
No. Because if it did always work out that way, then why would people be going on strike? Because then the union would be able to just bargain creatively however they could with the company and get you what you wanted, but that doesn't always work.
But even sports, I mean, at the Major League Baseball, NFL, they go on strike. I mean, it's look, everyone thinks everyone gets along. No one gets along. Everything is brass knuckles. At the end of the day, any business, I don't care what it is, if you're buying a house and the people selling the house are like, oh, they're so nice, I need you to come down like $5,000 so we can afford it. No, in fact, we're going to add $5,000 to it. I mean, at least, so at the end of the day, business is always very brass knuckles. We like to think it's friendly. I mean, CarMax has made an entire business model of basically you are paying a premium when you go to CarMax to not have to negotiate, but you're paying up for that. I mean, you can get a car for less at, Slick Rick's car lot down the street.
I love Slick Rick's car lot down the street.
But I'm just saying, it's like anything else. There's good and bad, and I think it depends on the industry. I think for Desiree and Zeus, who are
I'd love to be incredibly,
but I'm saying in a incredibly knowledge intensive, like training intensive. Who would expect Desiree and Zeus to be like brass knuckle negotiators? Like, that's dumb. We want them to be, I know, and maybe you are, but I'm saying society wants you to be great nurses. Like, we don't want you spending all your energy being like brass knuckle negotiators. So I get it. Like, I think unions are great in a lot of professions.
In respect to what you're saying, what you guys know, all the things that I have gone through. Well, all the things I've gone through, but you know what I've gone through recently.
The camera I have in your house pretty much tells me everything.
But my point being is, like, with the job thing, the job that I recently went for, it would have been a hell of a lot better situation if I had a union rep that was like, hey, this didn't happen and it was because of this, and they were just like, you guys can't do this because this was already cleared up 2 years ago. and what the hell are you thinking? Now we're going to sue you. Or maybe that probably wouldn't be the case. But the point being is, and I did a good job of defending myself, and I'm not brass knuckles, but I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I'm certainly not the dumbest guy in the room. And I defended myself well, and they came back and actually apologized me. But if the union was in on that and the company apologized, bang, I would have profited from it. So again, I like unions. I don't like the necessity of unions, though. We shouldn't need
we shouldn't need police officers either.
Right.
Right. We shouldn't. It should be a given that justice is always going on. You shouldn't have to have somebody to ensure that justice is there.
Companies should just treat their employees well, just at baseline, right?
Now, don't talk crazy talk now.
No, I mean,
but sometimes you get that, and that's the other side of the spectrum. So I work in a field that has a lot of unions, and the company I work for is not a union company. But the company I work for is an amazingly awesome company. So there's a spectrum, right? I mean, there's always, I don't know how much you guys are familiar with Dan Snyder, who's the owner of the Washington football team.
Mm-hmm.
He's a horrible owner. Like, he's completely, I mean, by any measure, he's horrible. You look at other teams, their owners are great. Well, people involved with the Washington football team, they would love some representation. Other teams, if you play for the Steelers or the Ravens, or you're like, oh, these guys treat me fantastic. It's just it
goes back to morale.
It depends on who you're working for. It depends on the company. It depends on the industry.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you brought the business situation up, Mike, because that's kind of how I viewed unions. Unions are a business. They are. Them and themselves are a business.
Yeah.
Just like the credit union or the credit bureau.
Yeah.
Really, they're just another business out there that thinks that they can control your life because if you let them, can.
Yep.
So in my head, I'm like, okay, until you need to sell me your product. You need to sell me what you're going to do for me, not just what you think you're going to do for me. For me to be able to like buy into your product. That's kind of how I see unions. So until you can do that for me, I'm not just going to blindly sign my name on some shit that I don't really even know how it's going to end up. That's how I've been viewing this. Actually, even now I say that. But so anyway, through all this. So then basically what's in our collective bargaining, kind of terms is we want, of course, better pay, whatever benefits, all that kind of economic stuff. But also we want better staffing grids. So we have safer patient to nurse ratios. And then also safer just facilities for ourselves and the patients. Story here to come. And then just, we want to get paid better. Who doesn't want to get paid better?
But yeah, absolutely. But I mean, everyone would want to get paid more, but aren't some of the topics...
Not me. No.
But I'm just saying, but aren't some of the things related to, I mean, one of the main things that we met you about, Desiree, was, when you came to DC and all that stuff, like all these other issues about like ratios and
safe patient ratios, staffing grids.
I mean, that's as good as gold. I mean, it's pay, but it's also, like, okay, personally, for my job, what I'm making, I'm okay with it. But if they were like, okay, you got to do this, and you also have to go to the quarry 3 hours a day and break rocks with a sledgehammer, I'd be like, you know what? This pay is not enough. It's not enough. So it depends on kind of what you're doing. And it seems like with nurses that I know, and I, for some reason, know many, but it seems to be the pay, but it's more the pay in relation to
the work.
It's like everything else that's part of that.
Dennis, you'll probably agree with this, and this is just I'm assuming that this is one of the biggest parts of unions. The benefits with unions are ridiculous. Like when I was with Kaiser Permanente, my insurance for top-notch benefits, medical, legal, education, all that, I was paying like $80 a month for really good medical insurance, a great pension, everything. $80 a
Yeah.
month.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I know, right? And now I'm at Fairfax. I'm at a hospital that is it's a magnet hospital, well received, all that stuff. But I'm paying like $600 a month for
damn.
the same
Wow.
right for the same thing that I got at Kaiser.
Is that
For-
still lower than you,
But
Mike?
Kaiser's a little bit different
Yes.
because
Well,
Kaiser
it's about
is
the same.
different.
It's about the
It's a
same.
different setup. You probably
Well,
have
they
Kaiser
also provide their own
insurance,
health
too.
care. Yeah.
So that's a little bit of a different situation.
Yeah, perhaps, but still, the benefits seem to be one of the best things about unions is they really make you as comfortable in your outside life as they can have an effect on, and they also protect you. That's my biggest things.
But isn't the here's the thing, as a consumer, right? If I'm going to a hospital, here's the bargain. I'm like, look, I want nurses to be well paid, just like I want my doctor. My doctor who did my hip replacements, he drives $150,000 Porsche sports car that will blow your mind. It's got back tires on it that are like, they got to be like this wide. What I want him to drive that car, right? Because he's like,
oh yeah.
So I want my nurses. I want everyone to be like
You want to be
super
happy people.
I want them to be very happy people. So the bargain as a consumer of medicine, whatever the industry is that, look, I understand it's expensive. I understand my deductible is going to be high. I got to pay this, whatever. But I want, when it comes down to brass tacks, I want the freaking best people, not focused on their salary
You want them
negotiations.
happy and
I want them
healthy and
happy. I want
rested.
them focused. Like, if I have a heart issue, I want Desiree coming in there being like all smiles. Like, I don't want her being like, man, this hospital's fucking me over. Right? So
Well,
the bargain
is,
is, but I'm just saying, but I'm
She'll
saying
do that,
that's,
but she'll be like, I don't give a shit about fuck.
but I'm just saying that's the bargain we make as consumers, right? We're like, look, I'll pay for X if I'm getting Y, right? And if that keeps working,
I
everybody's
don't know,
happy.
Mike, because we pay a lot less for stuff made in China that's made by like little kids with no unions, and they're in
It's
like
true.
dirt. They're working like 15
Different
hours a day
Yes,
just
different
to get
industry.
a cheaper, pair of shoes or something.
No, you're
So,
right. It's a different industry, but
yes
and
and
look,
no. Yeah.
we pay a premium on things that we need to get things that we don't need cheaper. Like, in other words, we pay, this binder clip, right? I don't know.
Right.
I mean, if I go in and
That's
I
a
go
good-
to
that's a good thing to
Staples and there's like 10 binder clips for like $10, I'm like, fuck that, man. Are you kidding me? He's like, I
Good
want to
deal.
pay $1 or whatever. And these are being manufactured by little kids in China in slave camps, right? Maybe.
But
I don't
in
know.
all fairness, binder clips are very small, and you have to have tiny fingers to
assemble them.
I'm just saying, it's a balance, man. Of course, people.
Well, okay. So before I go on, let me just say this little disclaimer. All the things I'm disclosing in this podcast are the views of my own and not those of my employer. And then everything I've disclosed in this podcast that I've experienced are my own experiences. I'm just going to explain them as I see them fit.
Sweet. So let's get into it.
Okay.
Name names.
So then, like I said, they bad faith bargaining, blah blah blah. So that's why the union put the vote forward to authorize a strike, and then so we announced a strike to go on today.
What was the real bad faith bargaining? They
The
just
bad faith
wanted to
is this.
negotiate who would pay for the form.
Negotiate the bullshit. You can't, like, legally,
But you can negotiate stuff.
there is a list of stuff that you have to bargain about. That doesn't mean that you have to come to an agreement. You just got to talk about the shit. Maybe
Okay.
try.
Put it out there.
Okay. So, Tom, if you and I were bargaining and you said you wanted to get paid $7,000 an hour, and I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I can't really afford to pay you $7,000 an hour. How about $700 an hour? And you're like, yeah, no,
Tom's not
move
gonna
on.
do that.
I'd be
At
like,
least we
yeah,
talked
okay.
about it. At least
Tom's
we
not gonna
talked
work
about
for
it.
that.
I'll take that.
Dude, we
Tom
gotta
will
pay
just
Tom.
take you out in the
Look,
dark at night.
we're paying Tom $500 an hour just to do this podcast.
But if Tom was like, but just then we talked about it, okay? We discussed. He said no. I said, look, why? He said we can't afford it. And then I said, give me your financial documents. You're lying. Whatever. We've discussed. Move on. Okay. Now, if I say, Tom, I want to get paid better. I want to get paid $7,000 an hour, and Tom
Right.
just like sits there like this.
It's probably what my reaction
So
would
about
be.
this jury duty thing, like, and does not address it. Or you send them like you can like send them
Okay,
contracts.
so
and
if
they
they're not
blocked a bunch of shit.
negotiating with
They're
you,
not
that's
negotiating
okay. I
the
had the
stuff.
impression they were negotiating, but just about frivolous stuff, and
They are, but there's a
too.
certain amount of stuff you have to negotiate. If you are not negotiating those things, if you're just negotiating the bullshit, if you will, stuff that is not relevant. I mean, it's relevant to a job, but that's not on this list. Wages, benefits, working, get it, those things.
Okay, so they're
Then
just not. They're not
it's-
coming to the table.
Exactly. Then it's
quote
considered
unquote.
bad faith bargaining.
Okay, I got you.
We don't need to be talking about jury duty for 7 sessions. No one cares.
Here's the issue with business, and this is the thing no one ever wants to talk about. But in business, things are item based. In other words, I have a flat tire in my car. I go to the mechanic. I need to get a new tire, right? So I'm like, how much does a tire cost? How much does it cost to have someone replace it? It takes an hour. I don't know. But the business side of it, the business person side of it, they pay their person by the hour. So they have Tom, and Tom takes 5 hours to replace a tire. And they have Desiree, and Desiree takes 20 minutes to replace a tire, and Zeus, he doesn't know what he's doing. It takes like 10 hours.
Come out of the break room.
So you're paying per hour for productivity on something that the consumer is looking at as a basic a cost thing. And this is across almost every industry. I don't care what business you're in. It's the perception of what you're getting versus the cost of it. And there's certain industries like what Desiree does. When someone comes in and they're having a heart attack, the hospital rep doesn't come in and be like, Desiree, I need you to go help this person. If you save them, we're going to give you $1,600, right? They're like, I'm paying you the same amount per hour to deal with this life-altering situation as I am when we're totally quiet and no one's coming in and you're drinking tea, right? So that's their perspective. But their customer that's coming in, the patient, it's not that way. Like when they're not busy, they're not making any money. And it's that dichotomy, that thing that doesn't line up, which gives the fertile ground for unions to develop to deal with businesses. I mean, it's almost in almost every industry. It's just things aren't charged at the same amount that their expenses add up. I don't know if I'm explaining that really well.
There's a term that I'm trying to think of that's not coming to me. It's like I don't want to say non-working hours. It's like non-productive hours. That's what I'm trying to think of.
Yeah.
It's almost like that.
Making money.
We're like, okay, so you come in for your DRG, to the hospital with a heart condition, and after heart surgery, your DRG, which is how long you're supposed to stay in the hospital after that, is 5 days. Doesn't matter what happens to you between. You're supposed to be discharged before or at 5 days. Now, the nursing care, it could be stellar or it could be sitting on your ass. Just as long as you get out of there by 5 days, they don't really care. And if you go past the 5 days, then it's really also not the nurse's fault. It's then the physician's fault. So really, I mean, nurses are really, they're non-billable. I cannot bill per hour of me running an ECMO.
And you don't, look, as a consumer of medicine, like I don't want my nurse thinking about billable hours. Like I just want them to be there, right?
The best that
During
they
a
can be when they're there.
shift.
Mhm.
But
I
there's
don't want the
look,
5-hour heart treatment. I want the 20-minute heart treatment.
I mean,
Let's get this taken care of quickly.
so listen,
You can
I
only go to
work,
the bathroom 4 times today. Sorry.
another episode we need to do is when we talk about our own professions, because I would love to. But I'm in construction, but basically like remodeling, like high-end remodeling.
Mhm.
And there are guys that I've known, I've been in it like 25 years, and there's guys I've known who are fantastic craftsmen. And I've worked in companies and I've worked in situations where they're paid by the job, right? Like they call it piecework in our industry. So it's like you do this job, you get paid this amount of money. Well,
doesn't matter how long it takes.
Doesn't matter how long it takes. Those guys get the job done really freaking fast. Like the craftsmen who get paid by the hour, not piecework, they'll do the same job very well. I mean, as well, but it'll take 2 times as long. And that's human nature.
That's
I mean,
very, very similar to like a DRG versus a paper service scale. Very similar.
You can't. That's where managers come in, right? I mean, that it's just human nature. You can't get around that, and it's in almost every industry. If you're paid piecework, you're going to be a lot more efficient than if you're paid hourly. And again, I've seen it for 20 years. Like I've seen it.
That's the downside of unions, though. You got that one
bad
employee
apples
that
stick
takes
around.
3 times as long to do something, and you can't fire them.
And you can't fire them. Yeah.
Yeah, that is one thing I was definitely going to mention is you get the thing about unions and union reps is they're masters of nitpicking. Like nobody knows the rules of the union better than the union rep. They will, like you as like the employee under the union, not as a rep, the more you know about the rules, the better your life's going to be in it. But man, if you're wrong about anything, that union rep is going to be like, no, you can't do that because under sub law, blah, blah,
No,
blah.
that's not what
that's
not what he's talking about. He's talking about like the bad apple situation. Like, okay,
No,
so
that's
as
what
a
I'm saying.
nurse, you want your patients to get better, and you don't want your patients to fall, and you want them to live, and you want them to, progress and get better and all the things. And if you have a nurse that's just sitting on her ass all the damn time, just not giving a shit, and just
who gets paid the same.
I was actually getting at
the
that.
same, and then if they like are there for longer, they're gonna get promoted. I mean, that's the bad downfall to unions.
I was actually leading to that is that the people that were the worst that I worked with were the people that knew the bylaws and all the little intricacies to a T. And they would
use it. They'd work it.
Use the hell out of it. Again, as I said earlier, I like unions. I don't like the necessity of unions. Like it should, that's kind of dumb. Everybody would feel that way. The problem is that the world that we live in, everybody is litigious now. Like unions are probably more important now than they were when they were formed, because we are in such a litigious society where every little thing that they can try and get you for, they will. And that's where the union comes in. The union knows how to defend you. They've done it 1,000 times before, and it's like written in stone. The changes, they learn them as soon as they come through, and they protect you accordingly. So again, I said it before, and it is kind of stupid that I said it, but the necessity of them is really the worst thing.
Yeah. So back to Ascension. So then they voted to strike back in May. I was not in town, but I'm not a union
enough
member
of that, Zeus. Getting back to the story.
Get back to the story. We're enough. I wasn't even here in town when the vote was, but I'm not a union member, so I couldn't vote anyway. But anyway, the vote passed 93% to strike, and then on June the 12th, maybe 13th, they gave their notice to strike on June the 27th, which is today. You have to give a 10-day notice prior to striking so they can get their shit together and like get some people in line to work while you're not there. Okay, it's a 1-day strike. A 1-day strike is what they announced. Okay, so This is
Wait, real quick. Are you allowed to strike longer, or was that like a limit?
you're allowed to strike however you announce your strike for. So if you want to say,
Okay.
I'm going to go on strike, we're going to go on strike for 47. Well, you
Okay.
can't go on strike for
All right.
whatever you say is what it is. So they decided one day. That's all you really need. Okay. So to
Just
your
to
little
make the point.
picture, Tom. So in response to us, the union saying we're going on strike on this day, the hospital said, that's fine. Cool. We're gonna lock you out. Actually, we're gonna lock you out. And
Ooh.
not just for today, but until July the 1st.
Oh,
Which is what, Sunday?
Which is, yeah, 4 or 5 days.
No, Saturday.
One of
Saturday.
them days.
Yeah.
No, I think it's Sunday. I think it's Sunday.
No,
One of them days.
like 3 days from now.
the 30th is Friday.
So 4 days.
Do we really need to worry about the days of the week?
Yeah, the first is
You guys
Saturday.
are bad faith negotiating
It's
the
more than
calendar
one
right
day.
now.
It's more than one day, which we said we're going to strike. The union did. Okay, whatever.
I
Okay,
assume- I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The Ascension sent out this email to the staff and said, okay, we're really disappointed. We're so disappointed in you guys in the national nurses union to implement the strike. You know, it's going to be really bad for the patients. Blah, 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 blah. All the disclaimer things that they're going to say. Then they went on to say, actually contractually we have to the people we're going to bring in to replace everyone, contractually we have to allow them to have 4 days of work. So that's why we're going to lock you guys out. And so if you don't work on Tuesday, then don't plan on coming back none of the rest of the week.
So you're not getting paid.
So hold on. So I read that email and it said, like I said, it said, if you do not work Tuesday, if you're not going to come to work on Tuesday, then you're not going to be allowed back the rest of the week. Okay, that's fine. I wasn't scheduled to work today. I'm not going to worry about this email.
Right.
Till about last Wednesday, when where I was in my boss's office talking to her, and I like my boss. Okay, this is one of those rare situations where I fucking love my boss. I just don't like the bullshit, and she doesn't even like the bullshit. She just has.
She doesn't either, man. She wants it to be easy. She doesn't want to do all this stuff. She's in a rock and a hard
place, and I feel for her, but she's a good boss. She's a good manager. Anyway, so we're just talking about other things or whatever, and somebody else comes in and they're like, "Oh, hey, I heard this rumor that if you don't come to work on Tuesday, then you can't come back the rest of the week. Like, even if you're not scheduled, like you got to come in and show up to work a day you're not scheduled to work, or you can't come back."
That's weird.
And she was like, "Yeah, that's it." I said, "Hold on, wait a second. So in order to work my scheduled shifts for the rest of this week, I have to
show up when I'm not working.
Move one of my shifts to Tuesday, or pick up another shift that's not a contract shift, because they're not allowed to offer incentives to work more shifts than you. They're not allowed to incentivize you to work strike day if you're a staff, because they can't do that. So it would be a non-contract shift. It would just be straight overtime, which I mean sounds a little selfish, but Zeus, what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So you can either do one of those two options, or you can't come to work even if you're not scheduled.
Can I just interject something real quick?
Mm-hmm.
I would really not like to be a patient in the hospital this week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, can you imagine that? Like, you're dealing with, you got like, a meteorite that got embedded in your femur,
or
a
hip replacement,
surgery or a hip replacement. And then it's like, fuck, now I got this goddamn nurses strike going. I mean, seriously, there's people that are just like, I can't win, man.
This is going to put you at jeopardy, because these new nurses, they're not going to know where everything is, because they don't work there normally.
It's like the
USFL
of nurses.
They can't come to work.
The
scabs. They can't throw the ball as far. They're like,
yes.
Where's the scalpels?
They don't know
where's
where
the
stuff
band-aids?
They don't even know what's going on.
But like,
they're putting things in your butt.
I'm gonna call them strike nurses, because I don't like the word scabs. It's weird. So scab nurses, or strike nurses.
Scab
the replacement workers, typically supposed to be very experienced staff that know how to do the work. All they got to do is just figure out where shit's at. And it's not that hard. It's in the unit somewhere. Okay. Man. It's there.
I'd
You
be
No,
just
but it's
going
gotta
going to
be
be a little bit
savvy.
slower. You got to admit.
You got to have like
Well,
you're gonna.
not
It's gonna
really,
be a
actually, Tom.
I
slight like.
think it would have to be a little
Your
bit slower.
microphone is very close to your face, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is. you
Okay.
just
sound like
Tom,
this.
actually, most units there's kind of slower, yes, but like supply, like your main
There's a
thing
supply
that
closet. That's where all your supplies
Yeah.
are. There's a dirty
That's
utility.
really
There's
the
a
biggest-
Pyxis. There's an equipment room. I mean, basically,
I'm sorry, Tom. We put the tapioca pudding in your IV instead of the
And there's a
saline
nutrition
solution, and we didn't know where it was.
Like,
So
we couldn't
but
find
No.
the supply
it's
closet.
good. Tapioca
that
pudding.
kind of stuff, though, they know
it'll be
they know
fine.
how to do.
Yeah, we're nurses are pretty. It's part of like the nurse mentality. Like, you know where your shit is. Nurses don't know everything, but they know where to find everything.
But
We're-
where
we're-
are the
it's
scab
one of
nurses working when you're not striking? Are they at
They're
like
travel
7-Eleven?
nurses,
Like, what are
or
they doing?
They're
Probably
travel
PRN.
nurses, or they're just PRN or whatever.
Okay.
They're waiting for the next strike to come.
All
I
right.
mean,
So
you get
Des,
paid a lot of money. So
Des, I have a question.
uh-huh.
Sorry. And I assume that you probably made this same assumption. I'm guessing that the reason that Ascension said, well, fuck you, we're going to push it out to this part, was kind of a
Fuck you.
negative negotiation. Well, but I imagine their logic behind that was that at the end of all this, whoever wins is going to have to pay for all those days, because these nurses are going to get paid. These
A lot of
nurses
money.
that are on strike. So
Oh no,
I'm
no.
assuming that Ascension
No.
did that so that the union would have to pay their wages rather than they did.
But
That makes sense?
yeah, but the union's not going to pay anyone's wages. The union's going to force Ascension to pay the wages. But
But that's
okay,
but that's
The patients are
what-
paying the wages.
yeah.
Okay.
When you
The
think
union's
about
not going to pay the union doesn't pay the wages. The union just tells them that they actually that's not even how that goes. So we'll get into that in like a 2.5
But
seconds.
it's going to hit Ascension's profit margins. Like, they're not
It's
losing
eventually-
money, but they're paying more labor. They're
yeah.
paying more for
if
labor
they had
right
to
now.
pay the strikers as well,
If
yeah,
they
then they're
have to-
paying double.
Can I
But
just
they're
say
paying them
something?
so much money.
I
And
don't-
okay, go ahead.
I'm just saying, just me personally. I'm not trying to be funny, but I don't know if I want to go to a hospital managed by a company called Ascension. Like, when I go to a
Ascension?
hospital, I'm not looking for ascension. Like, I'm looking for staying.
You're
I'm
not
looking
looking
for
to
like I
ascend.
want to stay right here.
You're
I
not
don't want
looking
to
to ascend
ascend.
to Jesus.
No, I-
Ascension.
I want to remain.
Mike wants to work for Stasis Hospital.
Yeah, stasis.
Ground level.
As you came in, Hospital Incorporated.
Well,
Perfectly
No,
fine.
you don't want
Hospitals
as you came in.
Incorporated.
Yeah. Anyway, that's
well,
just
you know,
sorry,
sometimes you don't
Ascension.
be leaving the hospital.
I'm sure
when you
you're
go into it.
fantastic,
Sorry.
but I got to inject some comedy in this.
The
Okay.
That's
Ascension's
fine.
referring to your prices.
No.
You're-
As they go up.
it's-
Yeah, and
And
the
then
pockets
there's the
going up.
duds.
Okay, so then we get into something that is now, like I said, where I was mentioned, like Starbucks and Amazon and whatever, is a concept called unfair labor practices. Okay, so listen. Remember how I talked about unions? They're a business to me, whatever. Along with that, I understand the business mentality. Okay, not saying I think it's fair, but in the end, Ascension is a business. They're nonprofit, but they are a business. There is certain situations that they have to cut dollars here and there, maybe everywhere. You know, put a little bit of here, take a little bit from that, put some there, do things like this. You know, staff. It's a business. I do get
Yeah.
that. But at the same time, like, you know, all businesses go too far, whatever. But, and I get that. You know, sometimes I don't like being staffed the way we're staffed, but it's like literally, it's not, unless it's that bad, I'm probably going to be like, whatever, it's fine. Now, when you start doing illegal shit, that's where I'm going to have to say, nah, we can't be doing illegal shit. Here's what's illegal that they did with that email. Number one, when you institute a lockout, you got to lock out everybody, not just some people. So, and I mean, like, that's not saying like the PCTs and the radiology department and like the nurses, everyone. I'm talking about all the nurses. So you can't just say some nurses can come to work and some others cannot. That's not legal.
It's all of them.
That's a
But if
discriminatory
they-
against your right to vote.
I thought it was if they didn't strike, then they could come to work.
But they instituted a lockout. When you
Don't,
lock
but they said
out
only
staff,
if you didn't come in on Tuesday, then you would be locked out.
right?
right.
But then you're discriminating to my right to be in a union.
No, because like when in pro football, if you remember back in like '82, when all the players went on strike,
It was
some of
like
the players
four.
broke. Some of the players like broke through the
Yeah, they
strike
crossed the
and
picket
came
line.
to work. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
they
they
didn't
came
institute a
and they
lockout.
played.
Did they institute a lockout? A legal,
Yeah.
like a lockout, or
No,
was
they
it
were
just
just
a
on
strike?
strike at that point.
Okay, so that's different.
Because
They
if there's a
instituted
lockout, then there's no work to be done
If
theoretically.
if there's a
And they had,
lockout, they
like-
can't pick and choose who's coming. It's either everyone's getting out or everyone's can come to work on their
I don't know. I
choice.
think they can.
No, they can't. They cannot do that. Not on a lockout. Not on
They
a
already
legal
said if
lockout.
you
The
go
one
on
that said
strike,
you've
you
never
can't come
been
in.
part of a union.
No.
They can't.
If
If you
Unions
didn't go on
deal-
strike, you should be allowed to come in on Wednesday.
You should be.
you
yes,
should be,
but
if it was just a
unions deal-
strike and you cross the picket line, that's what that
unions
would be.
deal with absolutes.
But no, they only have to hire a replacement for the people that went on strike. So if
But
you
I
didn't go
think-
on strike, they don't need a replacement for you, so you can come in on Wednesday.
But I
But
think
I
there's
cannot
different.
because I've been told I cannot because
Who told you you can't come in?
the hospital has instituted a lockout.
Yeah, I think it's different for different
So,
agreements. Like
yeah,
there's
the
different
way-
contracts. It's not monolithic.
Yeah, so like so you can strike or whatever anytime for, well, not technically anytime, but basically for anything you want. But a organization cannot just all the time answer your strike with a lockout. There has to be a certain, bit of evidence. They have to come to a legal impasse and they have to declare that impasse. And then it's a bunch of things. And that's what happened. And so they instituted a lockout. When they instituted a lockout, they cannot pick and choose who comes to work and who does not come to work. It's all or no one. That's
Here
a
it is.
lockout.
I think a good way to explain it is the strike is fuck you. The lockout is fuck
Fuck
me,
you back.
fuck you.
But
Yeah.
here's the
So
thing too.
The lockout is the retaliation. It's
So
that's the
ExxonMobil they just instituted a lockout.
And like and the NFL does lockouts, and
Who's going to
baseball does
spread
lockouts.
oil all over our oceans now?
That they actually the MLB is the only professional football team that's been in a lockout. A
Major
legal
League Baseball.
lockout. A
I
legal
thought
lockout.
NFL did a lockout. I'd
Actual-
have to look that up.
Actual lockout. Or it's been the most recent. Maybe.
Here's the thing with
I
companies.
think hockey
man.
did hockey do a lockout as well?
What's
If-
hockey?
If
Is
you
that a sport?
if you can't walk into your boss's office, or the person that owns the company, then it's probably a good idea to be part of a union. So if you work in a company where you can walk down the hall and talk to the guy that owns the company or the woman that owns the company or they or whoever, then you're in a good situation. If you can't do that, probably a good idea to be in a union. I mean, that's just my own opinion, because that's what it's all about. It's like you can't if you don't have that level of communication with the people who are signing your paycheck, then you need representation. In my opinion, I mean, I've always
I could
worked
do
for
that with my
small
direct
companies.
manager. I don't even know who the fuck signs my paycheck, to be honest, because I don't
Well,
ever
then
see
it's
it.
good that you're in a union, because if you don't have that personal, again, I could walk into the guy that owns the company I work for. It's 180 employees, $60 million company. I could walk into his office tomorrow and be like, "Hey, man, what's going on?" That's probably the
I
limit.
think that's rare, though.
That's rare. But if it's like GM or a hospital company or you need. I could see. I think it's
I think
practical.
you just need a
to be
good
part of a
relationship
union.
with your immediate boss. I think because you're never
And I
going.
have a
I mean,
good
the John
relationship
J.
with the immediate boss.
Godrocks that signs the checks. You're never going
We
into
don't know
their
who signs the
office
checks,
and
but
talking
it's
to
the
them.
directors
I got
and
you.
the CEO or CEO of the single hospital, not the corporation, but the hospital. That's the problem. Making all these shit rules, downhill rules that ain't no one like. Anyway, we can move past that. So they instituted this lockout. We've been locked out. I'm locked out. I try to log into all my logins. I'm locked out.
Okay.
As far as I know, I'm fired because I can't
Wow,
log into
that's
my.
crazy,
As far as
Desiree.
it just tells you that your password is not recognized.
So that you
They
can't get in.
they agreed that you can come back on the 1st, though.
Yeah, they
So
say.
you know you're not fired.
They say, well, no, because I'm not fired because even if I was fired, even if I was going to be replaced for a long period of time, I could still come back. Anyway, that's a whole situation.
But they went through the process of like locking you out of your email and everything else.
Yeah. I can't even access
Wow,
my
man,
email.
that's
Well,
spiteful.
and here's another thing that Desiree being in a union may relate to, is the interesting thing is, Mike, as you were saying, like you can walk up and talk to a manager or a supervisor or whatever about a grievance and done. The ball starts rolling and so on and so forth. In a union, at least the union that I was in, if I walk up to my manager and go, I think this is unfair, blah, 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 this is where they kind of get a break. They're like, well, you're going to have to talk to your union rep.
Right.
Everything kind of freezes right there. And that's one of the negative sides, but it's kind of a positive too.
Yeah.
Well, and so that's kind of where
very peculiar.
So this is kind of where I'm at with this whole situation. Like I said, you can do whatever you want, but don't be doing legal shit. And when you're gonna do legal shit, then I'm gonna go and I'm gonna sue your ass. So I went and spoke to the other thing that they did that's illegal under like the national the Fair Labor Relations Act is the fact that on this email they said you have to notify your manager by Friday the 23rd if you're going to be striking or not. They are not allowed to ask you what your affiliation is or your union action. They're not allowed to ask
that's
you
better. It shouldn't just be if you don't show up on Tuesday, because like you said, not everybody's scheduled to come on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So you should have to tell your supervisor that you're going on strike.
Right. But so in my
that way you don't have to come in on Tuesday.
So in my situation, I'm not a union member. I didn't plan on striking. I'm not scheduled I wasn't scheduled today. So why do I even need to come in on my day off to be guaranteed to work the rest of my shifts this week?
Because
they're saying you have to.
Well, if you didn't tell your manager on the 23rd that you're going on strike, then you can come in on Wednesday, I would imagine.
No. If you did not show up to work on Tuesday, regardless if you were scheduled or not, you cannot come back.
Well, that's contradictory
Tuesday.
with the other thing you said about the 23rd.
Tom, it's not contradictory. She has to show intent.
I have to show my ass up and work a shift today, or I don't get to the rest of the week.
No, well, then why are they requiring the thing on the 23rd with the manager?
Because they want you to tell them that what your affiliation is in the unit, so they can plan, so they don't have to hire that many replacement workers, and so they can force you to cross the picket line. That's why they do it. It's a matter of union busting activity, and all the things.
So are you saying you could not tell your manager you're going on strike and then still not show up on Tuesday?
Yeah. So I said, look, after a lot of careful consideration, I'm not coming to work on Tuesday.
Yeah.
It would have been nice if you had told them manager that you're going on strike.
No, I'm not going on strike.
They need the plan.
But she wasn't scheduled.
Patience.
But I'm not scheduled.
She wasn't scheduled.
Well, you shouldn't have never accounted for my ass.
No, I mean, not tell them if you're coming in on Tuesday, but tell them if you're going on strike.
But here's the other thing.
But the thing is I'm not going on strike. And still, if I do not come to work on Tuesday, regardless of what the fuck I'm doing, I don't get to work. You could
be on strike even if you're not scheduled to work on Tuesday.
In defense of the hospital, they have to do accounting of the staff that they have available, especially in a hospital, because we're essential persons.
Yeah.
Tom, what you were saying, I get what you were saying, because you're trying to make sense of it how it makes the fuck sense, right? Because that's logical.
That's what I do.
If I'm not
Sorry.
scheduled to work,
I try to make sense of things the way they fuck.
What I do on Tuesday that I'm not scheduled to work is whatever the fuck I want to do, and it doesn't concern my place of work. It doesn't.
But there's two things, Desiree. Here's the thing. One, it's possible that your management has no idea what's going on, and they could make errors. Right? They don't necessarily
we're not attacking you. We're just trying to understand.
I'm not attacking you. But listen, if I was your supervisor, if I was like someone in your hospital, I would assume no one's coming in. Like that would be my starting point.
Because you instituted a lockout, you should assume that, right?
You would
because
assume
if you locked everyone out.
Right.
But what they're this is what I'm saying. When they get in, unions and companies do this thing, they fight between this concept of unfair labor practices. And I know this is hard to understand because it's bullshit and it's not legal, but they engage in it all the time. But no one just ever does anything because they don't really know what their rights are. So stuff that's logical. Yeah, I'm not scheduled to
Right.
work on Tuesday.
Throw that out the window.
Why would I come to again?
The way you're
when
saying
I first
it,
read
so
that email, why would I come in?
let's say
I'm
there's
not scheduled.
1,000 nurses in that hospital or whatever,
Mhm.
and none of them tell anybody that they're going on strike on Tuesday. And then
Mhm.
Tuesday rolls around and nobody shows up and they didn't know. You see, that would be a bad thing.
Okay, so when they're saying you have to notify your strike, you just really have to notify your intentions. They want you to say that you're going on strike because they want you to disclose your union affiliation. You know,
You
Oh,
don't-
I got what you're
which
saying.
is illegal for them to ask.
Right, I got
But you don't have to be in the union, do you?
No,
Well,
Right.
but that doesn't matter because they
So
don't
it's
want
not
anybody.
revealing your status.
So
in,
why can't
in
I
the
just say,
defense
well,
of
I'm
the
not coming to work on
hospital,
Tuesday when it's not my scheduled day to work?
I'm sick.
I had to walk
here's
my turtle today. I'm sorry, I can't come to work. And
my
wash my
thing
cat
is
3 times.
in the defense of the hospital, they do have to have an idea. I mean, I get what you're saying,
Yes.
and that is
No, Zeus,
valid.
you know what? I
You
understand what you're
I'm
saying. I understand what you're
Yeah.
saying, but they've already hired 1,500 people to cover this. They don't need
Wow.
me to tell. If they've instituted, okay, logically, if you've instituted a lockout, like Mike said, you are going to should automatically assume that no one's
Right.
coming to work, right?
Nobody's doing it.
And so you should staff all your units with replacement workers, correct? That's logical.
That would be what I would do.
I agree.
Logical. Okay, then on the employee side, hey, I don't even work on Tuesday. Don't really care. I'm just going to come to work on Friday like I'm supposed to. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Those are logical things. What I'm telling you is unfair labor practice games are fucking not logical.
It's a little
Yeah.
complicated because of the hospitals. If you were just like if you were working in a factory making cars,
It's a whole
it would be a
different thing,
simpler
man.
scenario for us
But
to kind
look,
of
Yeah.
even,
debate.
but even
Medical unions are definitely more unique in the union arena.
Because you
Right,
have a
because you
duty
have
to
the
your
essential
patients, you know.
Right.
It's
But
a little bit different.
that duty is no longer, first of all, that duty is never mine until I show up.
right.
So, but that duty was taken from me or any other nurse when you instituted a lockout. When you said on
Yeah.
July 27th, you do not come to work, you do not get to come to work anymore for the rest of the week. That duty to staff the hospital is no longer that of its employees that are employed
And
there.
look, all of this stems from, I mean, let's be
So
honest.
so the staffing thing, they should have it figured out.
Let's be honest about
But that
this.
sounds fair that they would need, they can't just hire people for one day. Sorry, Mike, I was just
For 4
No,
days. It's for 4 days, like they
yeah, so they need the
They need
extra
to be
3
able to give them a
days.
minimum. But listen, all this, whether you're pro-union, and I'm just talking out of my ass right now, but if you're pro-union or you're anti-union, I think we can all agree this is a result of people who are horrible negotiators. Like, these are people that can't get to a deal. Like, these people need to be able to. I mean, can you imagine being in this room and it's like, you know what, fuck it, we're going on strike, we're gonna they know how much of a disruption it is. We have
Sometimes
to hire
that's part of the
1,500 new
negotiation.
people.
Yeah,
I
that's
know,
part of it.
but I'm saying the fact that it is part of it means that the people who are actually meeting suck. That's what it means. It means
Or
they
at
can't
least
do their
one
job.
side does.
Mhm.
Or at least one side.
When they were
I mean, it's
forming,
disgusting that it gets to that.
When they were organizing the union, the ascension lawyer came in and she straight up was like, "Don't plan on getting anywhere with me because I have a very long history of not budging."
Yeah, I mean, so
So that's fucked up. Thanks for even talking.
So do
Sure.
donkeys, you know.
Yeah.
That's
So-
when you use the
anyway,
bat.
back to unfair labor practices. So there's a certain amount of things. This goes, I'm sure you've heard of union busting, union busters, that's all that stuff. There's a certain amount of stuff you can't legally do. Every employee out there has a right to organize. Okay? You
Mhm.
have the right to talk about your wages in work. You have a right to talk about your contract in the open. of what your terms of
It's a good
employment are.
idea to talk to your fellow employees about pay.
You have the right to talk. So me and Zeus can be like, hey, Zeus, you going to that union meeting? And Zeus is like, yeah, I'm going to the union meeting right in front of Tom, who is our boss. That's legal. And Tom can't do anything about it. And if he does decide to fire us because we talked about going to the union meeting, then he can be sued.
I think Tom could do
And will
something
be.
about it.
And will be
not
sued if you're me.
Will be.
You will be.
Yeah.
So, and then they also can't do things like I said, they can't ask you to disclose your union affiliation. They can't surveil you. They can't, as far as, they can't listen to your conversations and listen in the break room and the door is shut if you're talking. Like, they can't do that. They also can't, if they institute a lockout, they can't just pick and choose. You can't change the terms and conditions of my employment, union or not union, by telling me I can't come to the work the rest of my scheduled shifts. You can't. Those are things you legally can't do under the Fair Labor Relations Act. So they're doing some very legal shit right now.
Well, Desiree,
you guys might come out ahead with this one, Des.
Mhm.
but Desiree, listen, I gotta, and in all seriousness, I'm sorry you gotta deal with this stress, man.
I'm not stressed. I'm stressed for the people that it matter. Like, I'm stressed.
I know, but still, you gotta. I don't know. I would be stressed. I mean, I would be stressed.
You know what? Listen,
you don't have time for this.
Talking to lawyers. You know what? I do. I have time to take a week off, and fortunately, I have.
All right, then no problem. But
fortunately,
I'm just saying, it
ability,
sucks.
Financially, I have the ability to not go to work for 2 days or whatever.
Right.
Has this happened before with you? Have you been on strike before?
No, this is the first time.
Okay.
But there's a lot of people that don't. There's a lot of people that don't have the ability that had to come in to work today, regardless if they wanted to or not, so they could feed their kids. Or there's so many people like that, and I don't know and those are the same people that usually don't know their rights or do anything about it.
Yeah, and that's
why I'm about to do something about it tomorrow.
Are you allowed to like work over in the next county at a hospital where they're on strike and you can go over there?
As long as it's not an Ascension hospital, because I tried that.
That would be hilarious.
I know.
Or like patient first or something.
Mm-hmm.
Look, my only experience with fighting the power with my comrades in arms of people I worked with was back in high school when I was a projectionist at this 7-screen theater, and the guy who was the manager was like 70 years old, and he got fired because we were part of a chain, like a small local chain, and he got fired for embezzlement, and everyone in the theater except for one of the assistant managers, and this guy, what was his name, man? I can't remember his name, but anyway, that's sad. But anyway, everyone in the theater quit because Mr. Lynch, his name was Mr. Lynch. He's dead now because he was 70, and this was back. Yeah, this was in the late 80s. So my point is, we were all righteous indignation. Screw this company, you're gonna fire Mr. Lynch. We're out of here. Blah blah blah. And they went dark for like 2 or 3 nights before they could get staff to go in there and run it. And this was during the summer. Anyway, like 3 months later, I found out from someone that worked at one of our sister theaters that 100% absolutely he was stealing stuff, and it was 100% justified that he was fired. And I just felt like such an asshole. Like, everyone quit. And it turned out he was doing it.
He was doing it. That's why you got to know, man. You got to know.
And ever since then, I just never could get I couldn't get behind it. I just never been a part of any labor movement since then.
So, and again, me either, because like, I fight your own battles. You know, I feel like with nurses, and Zeus, you will agree with me on this. The problem with nurses is this: we have a lot of power right now, but no one's willing to do anything about it unless it's get a union and have the union fight their battles. When they can stand up just as much as they can on their own and not get all the same shit, but I mean, I negotiated a raise. I maybe didn't negotiate some better benefits package, but I'm not saying it's not that bad. Like, It's not bad. It's completely fine. Like, could be better, but it's not terrible. Like, it's not outrageous. It ain't $600 a month. Psh.
But the fact that we had to all go down to DC that was, look, that opened my eyes. I mean, not just the Redonda Vault thing, but whatever episode when we met you, Des, when we went downtown,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. My point is, it's like, I never heard ratios. I never heard all this other stuff. And it was very alarming to me. I mean, as someone that has been a frequent visitor of hospitals over my life, I know good nurses from bad nurses, and some of the best nurses I've had, I mean, they're amazing people. I mean, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
You'll never know that they have 7 of you, or 8 of you, or 9 of you.
You would never know.
Yeah.
No, exactly. I mean, that's exactly true.
You would never know that there's a criminal running loose in the hospital.
But I mean, until I went downtown with Zeus, it opened my eyes. Like, I just talking to these people, I never realized how crappy this situation was. You know,
But a cool thing
we
about
just want
that,
to we just want to do our job well.
yeah,
And you can't do that well.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, the cool thing about that visit was you saw the solidarity. Like, medicine and nurses in particular is kind of almost union-minded already, but without all the legalities and all the benefits and all that. But there is kind of a solidarity.
There's
amongst
solidarity.
nurses.
There's this together but separate mentality, I think, because like I said, no one's willing to stand up on their own unless everyone is, and not everyone's willing to stand up. You know what I mean?
right?
So let me tell you a story about this just happened 2 weeks ago at my hospital. So 2 weeks ago, I am sitting at home, and it's about 2 o'clock in the morning. Being awake as I'm awake at 2 o'clock in the morning often, and I'm on Facebook, and I'm on this page that's called the Wichita News Network. And what it is these people, they listen to the police scanner and they just like write shit that happens on the police scanner. I'm sure every city has one of these. Yeah, it's interesting. So on the Wichita News Network, I see that there is a call to Ascension, St. Francis, that that an assailant is loose and been arrested and been in an altercation and was caught sexually assaulting some patients. Well, that's a little alarming. Huh.
Yeah, very.
The next day, I see it on the news. I see the story. Okay. Tell me, this is what actually happened. Okay. So somebody comes into the hospital. We don't really know what we know now, but at the time, we didn't really know how this person got in. Rapes 3 patients and is attempting to rape another, and then he is caught.
That's crazy.
So not an employee even.
Not
Wow.
no, a
How do you
rando.
get by the front gate? I mean, every hospital I go in, you got to show ID. There's like some dude that's like
I would
3
assume
times my size named Chucky that's like waiting to talk to you before you.
You
Yeah,
asked,
but
you asked
what
how
if-
the rapist got in. I would assume he forced his way in.
No, he didn't. Well, what
I'm
would you
just
say?
saying.
What would you say if 90% of America's hospitals, level 1 trauma centers, all those things don't have a Chucky at the front door?
I don't think they do.
Oh,
If you're
Or
like
any
a
door.
visitor, usually you just kind of walk in, you go straight
Yep,
to
you
the
get-
not
you
any
maybe just-
hospital I've been at, man.
The doors
Not
just
my
slide
hospital.
open. They're on a sensor.
the ones I've
you
been
just go.
to.
Dude, when I went in as a patient, it was like 4 a.m. I had to like show ID and like, I mean,
As
get
a
a thing
patient?
on my wrist as a
patient?
patient.
Well, yeah.
I was checking
Yeah.
in for surgery.
But you got to
But
check
if you're
in,
a visitor-
to tell you who you are. You're going to get surgery on you. You have to have
Maybe
a
it's
chart
just
and a
I'm in
file.
DC,
But
man.
if you're
They
a
don't-
visitor,
Well, Mike, what hospital is it?
Holy Cross.
Oh yeah, no, they're way magnet and very, very protected. That doesn't surprise me at all.
what if I told you, as Kansas's largest city, in one of the nation's largest hospital chains, one of the city's largest hospitals, level 1 trauma center, regional burn center, all the things, we have 2 security guards on at night.
That's insane, dude. I passed 2 security guards just walking in from the parking lot.
Sometimes 3.
We fight if we don't have 2 security guards on my unit.
Yeah.
And that's
At St.
one
Joe?
unit.
At St. Joe, where it's the psych hospital. I mean, they have like 5 different psych units over there.
That's right. Are
They have the same.
When
It's
you
the
say
same.
that,
They might have 3.
but when you say it's St. Francis and St. Joe, are these like affiliated with the
They're just
Archdiocese?
different. They're just different campuses. They used to be owned by the nuns.
But
so
are
that's
they
why they're-
associated with the diocese?
They
Like, are
used
they
to be.
Catholic
They
hospitals?
used to be. They used
Okay.
to be. And then
But they're
Ascension
not-
came. It used to be called Via Christi St. Francis, Via Christi St. Joseph.
But now they're privately
But now that
run.
Ascension
Okay.
purchased them, it's Ascension St. Francis, Ascension St. Joseph.
I got you.
You know,
Yeah,
Ascension St. Teresa, Ascension, whatever it is.
the hospital I'm talking about is still run by or owned by some nuns
It's privately
that
owned.
make gazillions of dollars and
Yeah.
have nothing to do with
See,
it.
and it used to be like that when the nuns owned it.
Yeah.
It really used to be nice. I used to when I first started, it was like that. And then Ascension bought it. Anyway, so
Can I ask you a question,
I'm gonna
Desiree?
finish the rape story. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So
and then I got a question.
then we don't the nurses that were working the night, no one got a critical communication of a suspicious person in the hospital. No one was told to lock down. Nobody was told anything.
That's horrible.
Nobody was told a single thing until 4 days later when Ascension sent us an email and said we had a serious safety event, and due to this, you guys as in like the staff need to be aware of their surroundings. Don't let anyone in behind you. And if you see something, say something. That is the only communication we've had about this rape event that happened in our workplace.
Yeah, it doesn't benefit them to.
Do you want to know
breathe
how he got
oxygen
in?
into
Somebody
it.
went to their, and this is not this person's fault at all. Somebody went to their car. It was like 1:30 in the morning or something. I don't know, super late at night, to go to get something out of their car or maybe sit in their car for the break. I don't even care what it was. They went out to their car. They come back in and badged in the door, and Creepo is lurking in the backgrounds. Door opens, person goes in, Creepo just swoops right in. And now is loose in the hospital.
That's horrible.
And we were told, don't let anyone behind you. Be more aware of your surroundings.
And was this a
like
nurse?
it's our fault.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a nurse or a PCT or whatever. It was a staff member.
Yeah.
I'm not security. Even if someone did follow me, and there's somebody there that sees that. They saw this guy on every single hospital camera trying to get into every door. If you saw him on the cameras, where the fuck were you at?
But the thing is, there should be like immense security because there's a lot of narcotics and drugs and people that are in compromised positions and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know, if you're
violent, sure.
If you're like recovering, you don't have all your wits about you.
Mm-mm.
Or it
So
could be
here's a question.
Sometimes another patient could attack somebody
Yeah.
or one of the staff.
That's
could
why.
start
That's why
attacking
you hear all
patients.
these stories about these nurses getting beat the fuck up by patients because there's no one there to stop them, and I'm not going to stop them. I can't.
When I had my last surgery, which was like last August or whatever, my insurance provided for a private room, and my nurse was like, "Man, you're really lucky." I was like, "What?" They're like, "Because you have no idea. I mean, you could be with someone that's great,
Yeah,
but
that's true.
Yeah, you could be.
maybe not." You know, and I'm like, "Well, I'm glad I don't have to worry about that." But here's a question, Desiree. Wait, I just got this in from our viewer. They have a question. Hold
Okay,
on.
question. Ask away.
This is
From the
live.
chat log.
You have a
Since
glitter
we're
phone?
live
please?
streaming this.
Like
Okay.
that?
So what is your prognosis? Are you looking forward to going back next week? Like what are you thinking is going to happen moving forward?
I don't know. I'm gonna try to go back on. I'm scheduled Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
This coming?
Yeah. So I'm gonna try to go to work on Thursday, see what happens.
All right.
Considering I've already been locked out of the system, I doubt I'll get in. But
Right.
there are.
But
So
you
I
know
have a
what?
little friend on the inside who's like giving me all the deets, and she's like, "Yeah, they got security guards at the door. You got to be on this list."
But you know what? It's sporting to at least go and be like, "Hey, can I come in to work?" Or no,
Sneak
that's
in,
cool.
act like a fucking family
Well, not
visitor.
sneak, but or just wait
No,
for
just
someone
walk
to
through
come.
the ER.
Wait for someone to come in and then sneak in behind them like the creeper.
Well, now there's security at the door that's open. There's one open door now.
But what
Except
does all this
instead of-
accomplish, though? I mean, are you guaranteed that there's going to be an agreement after all this?
Yeah, what's your thoughts
See,
on that?
well, see, no. So in the beginning, like when they announced a strike, we're like, what are we striking for?
Yeah,
I don't understand.
what are you
Because
gonna gain?
because now I understand that the reason that this strike was called is because they're bad faith bargaining, and that's an unfair labor practice, and you could strike for that. But you know, in the long run, the hope is to get a contract of, you know, safe staffing, safe facility for the patients and the staff, better pay, better, you know, all those things. That's the hope. Is it gonna, I guarantee you it's not gonna happen for another year or more.
How about more security? I think it's ridiculous that you only have 2 security guards.
Yeah, that's
there.
crazy. I mean, that's crazy.
And then, okay, so it gets better. So then after that, they hired a couple more. I don't know where they got them. I don't know where they got them. And by a couple more, 4. So there's 4 on a night. But when
how heavily are you staffed? What's your patient load at the hospital?
Mine, I mean, I work in the ICU, so it's not so bad. And they, you know, they don't tend to fuck ICUs as much as they do on the med surg floor. So med surg floor, 7, 8 patients. ICUs, sometimes you're tripled. If you are, it's usually not like 3 vents or like 3 super dying sick patients, you know, whatever.
But
wait, in the ICU, it's like 3 or 4?
No, 3. They've tried to make people take 4, but you just walk out, honey, because no.
Holy crap.
But usually
right.
if you're tripled, it's the walkie-talkies that have transfer orders, or the AFib RVRs that don't need to be in the freaking ICU jamming it up. Like those kind of patients that are super easy to take care of. They need like one thing.
I mean, that is super. I mean, yeah, that's very limited. I mean, the amount of people that
hospital though, right, Des?
Huh?
Your hospital.
It's not small.
Did you hear what I said? I said this is the largest city in Kansas with the largest ascension.
I was asking like how many patients the hospital can.
Yeah, for the whole
over
hospital.
1,000. Over 1,000.
Okay,
we have lots of
that's
huge hospital.
Ridiculously low. Then yeah. Like I said, on my unit, and
we have
granted,
7
I'm
ICUs. 7 ICUs at St. Francis. 7 ICUs.
Where my hospital, and I'm on psych, so security is definitely more of a, you know, necessary evil there.
Right, you gotta have that.
And they might have better security at St. Joe. I can't speak for St. Joe because I don't work there, so it might be a little bit better. But from what they say, it's not.
We have 2 to 4 on the unit on a regular basis, and that's just my unit.
Listen,
One of 5.
I'm not even exaggerating here. Listen, there's an armed security guard at my giant food grocery store in my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Armed, packing with bulletproof vests.
I mean, it's kind of like a school.
At my grocery
you might
store.
have 1,000 students, but you might not have a security guard. I mean, it's a matter of like how often does something happen? I don't know if this is like the first thing that's happened in a long time, or at your hospital.
No.
But to me, a hospital, it's like a place where people have like strong emotions. Things are going on. Like, you need to have people that know what they're doing there, man.
Just last week, a patient
you have people showing up whose relatives are like in an accident, and I mean, they're like flipping out. Like,
there was an incident a couple weeks ago where somehow a patient family member brought in a razor blade, slit their own throat at the nurse's station, took the scissors from behind the desk, and tried to stab the nurse. This is not a joke. This is really fucking happened.
No, I mean, that's where
you need
things
more
happen.
security guards.
Des, you can totally back me up on this. EDs are fucking war zones.
Then those are, and to be fair, I don't know if those 2 security guards that we have that I know that we have staffed have to do the ER situation too, or if the ER has like their own security guards. Hopefully they do, because the ER is a goddamn madhouse. Like,
dude, Mike,
the ER is crazy.
Des will know this, but imagine this: a guy comes in, shot, drive-by, or more targeted than just a drive-by.
Yeah, the home drop-off.
He's sitting there in the hospital, and somebody comes in to fucking finish the job.
Yes, exactly, man.
Yeah.
All the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time.
We have the KBI up on the 3rd floor constantly, because that's where SICU is, and they need to interview, like, you know, suspects and shit, and they got to be in the waiting room because the
family. Well, and how about this, Des? How about this, Des? Psych patients come in through where? The emergency room.
The
I don't know,
So
man. I'm just saying, in
it's
my
a-
hospital, you have to walk by like 3 county police officers just to get to the desk. Like, I don't
Yeah.
Sounds
know.
like these
I have-
guards should go on
there's a
strike, though.
guard at
If there's
Quick
only
Trip.
2 of them, it's kind of like your thing with the staffing,
Sounds
right?
like they should go on strike.
They should, because they need more help.
Unionize.
Look,
Right.
I want to
They
get
do
more.
need more help.
Desiree, I want to get more into this. Like, I don't know about a part 2 soon. This is
Where you wanna know some
fascinating
more
to
story?
me.
Like 5 months ago, somebody brought a gun into the pediatrics unit. The gun discharged. I don't know where the bullet went through the wall to the other room. And the chicks, it was 2 chicks. They just ran off and just got away.
Chicks,
2 chicks that had this gun.
chickens.
Chicks,
Oh,
girls,
chicks.
women.
Can the nurses conceal carry?
I'm just
No,
trying to be.
there's no
Yeah,
guns
we
allowed in
should
the
arm
hospital.
the nurses.
Look, we need to do a sub
Yes.
episode of this on like Thursday. Like, I'm not done with this
Like
topic.
the marshals on
but
the
I
airplanes.
do need to go to sleep soon. But I'm not done with this topic.
So here's the end point. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where your union's fucking you, or your job is, or they're doing some, if it doesn't feel like it should be legal for them to do whatever, it's probably not. There is way you can remedy that. You can absolutely fight for yourself. Like I said, try to get my own attorney, and the attorney who was an employment attorney was like, yeah, I can't really help you for this situation unless you get fired, but go talk to the National Labor Relations Board. So I did. And so there are things in the works with that. So yeah, don't
You know,
fucking do illegal
Des,
shit.
I don't want you as an enemy.
We gotta
You know,
pick up.
just
Look,
don't be doing illegal shit.
look, we got to talk more about this.
Yeah,
Seriously, I'm all like riled up.
What
But-
you want to know?
Well, and wait.
Well, I want to
Des
find
was-
out what happens, Des. Like, we need
Well,
to do
yeah.
like a
We'll
Saturday
have
to-
podcast.
We'll
Let's
need
do
a
like a
follow-up.
Saturday.
Well, I'll tell you all the
Well, we
things
haven't
right.
done
This
yet.
this is what I know right now. Right now, I know that all those strike nurses that came, they are all sitting pretty with 1 patient each in the ICU, every ICU. Isn't that fucked? How does that? That seems so backwards.
I know,
All this money.
Why not
You're gonna
just pay
save
the
your
original people better?
because they've got contracts with these
So
people.
yes, I just want to touch on, because you were saying, because the one that really chapped my ass, and I'll bet you can guess which one, because you were
Uh-huh.
like, look at all these other strikes that are going on. And the one that stood out to me that is just infuriating
Starbucks?
is the Starbucks one. Yes.
So Starbucks, this is a funny, and we'll end with this. So Starbucks has got now. To preface me sounding like a huge bigot here, I just don't think this is what you should strike for. This is a different board. This is probably the EEOC, not the NLRB. Okay.
Oh, it's
Starbucks
definitely
is-
government.
Oh yeah, but it's definitely like equal opportunity employment, not a strike. I mean, this is not.
So what are they
So
striking?
Starbucks is striking because, well, not because of this specifically. They've been having a long time kind of union busting, anti-union situation. They've been trying to organize, and Starbucks is having these massive anti-union campaigns, union busting, which is highly illegal, but it doesn't matter. So now that some of them are unionized, and I guess there's like 21 stores that they tried to. No, don't leave, Mike, because you're gonna like.
I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving.
They try, so these like 21 stores or something are on strike right now, and part of the reason why they're saying they're on strike is because they attempted to put up LGBTQ decorations in their stores, and they were not allowed to, so therefore they're striking.
Wait. They wanted to put them up,
Yeah, like
and
flags.
Starbucks
Well,
said no.
Their manager, Starbucks itself didn't say no. Their managers said no. For this, their cited reasons were things like, "Hey, you can't be getting up on a ladder, dangerous." Okay,
Mhm.
I kind of feel like that's valid. Or, "Hey, you can't do that right now. We don't have time. We're about to open." Also valid. Starbucks themselves are not saying you can't do that. These just
But they're
He's-
kind of saying you can't do that.
no. I mean, they're saying you
Just
can't get
the
on a
manager.
fucking ladder because you're gonna fall off, and then I gotta pay for your workers' comp. That's what they're saying. But it doesn't matter. Even if they were saying that, I feel like that's not a Fair Labor Relations Act situation. That's more like an equal opportunity.
I really don't
situation,
care
discrimination.
what you associate as
Mhm.
long as you get me my coffee hot and prepared well and treat me with courtesy. So it is pretty dumb.
But that's why the
Um,
manager said that.
Not even
That's exactly why
my
he said that.
view-
Because he's saying it's like the guy at Bud Light. If the guy at Bud Light had said, "No, you're not going to do this ad," then that would have
It would have
saved them billions of dollars. So the manager's looking out for that his franchise.
But even if they did say
Give me
that,
the
even if
impression
they were like,
Starbucks is kind of defending that, though.
I feel like they're very like, LGBTQ friendly. I don't know why they're.
I would think so. They're from Seattle, so
You can't climb up on a fucking ladder and put a flagpole up there. Like, no, that's not safe.
And if anything, Starbucks is the group that would, if they were to do it, it would be very uniform. Every Starbucks would have it done exactly the same way, with exactly the same flair on their uniform.
that could be the justification as well. The manager could say, "Well, no, we're not going to do this on our own. All of the stores are going to do it together, or
Exactly.
not together, or
Right.
whatever."
Or they can say,
they're
"We're
going
not
for
gonna-"
more of a uniformity.
Maybe they're
Right.
going to say, we're not going to do that because, corporate hasn't said everyone's going to do it.
Yeah,
So
we
we're
don't
not
have the blessing.
And
of
that's to
corporate.
me, that's not discrimination or like saying that you can't hang LGBTQ decorations at the store. Come on. If they're discriminating against
the
you,
world
this is not the platform for that. That is equal opportunity employment type of rights, not NLRB rights. But anyway, I digress.
The world is a hot mess right now, I think.
I love it.
What is Amazon's? Do you know what Amazon's beef is?
Again, it's just anti-union shit that Amazon is trying to bust. But
Is it the robots going on strike?
I don't know, probably the Hollywood Writers Guild's on strike
Yeah, man.
currently.
And you know
my
what?
sister is actually a makeup artist. I think I've told you this. She's a makeup artist in Hollywood. She's the one that Mike and I went and saw Eddie Izzard with. By the way, Mike, we're going.
Not if it's
But
chicken.
yeah, she said that she hasn't worked in like 8 months. Like, people are striking left and right. And I mean, I think.
Can I just say something? I mean, aren't you guys really?
But yes.
But listen, aren't you guys really feeling the loss that we are experiencing from the Hollywood writers' strike? I mean, isn't it?
No, because
Bro,
it's streaming, which is why they're
Isn't it
striking.
profound? Like, isn't it just like so sad?
Yeah, who's going to
I'm
make
not
all
really-
the
Oh, it's
remakes?
not. Oh, it's not sad at all.
I'm
Yeah,
not
I
really
don't miss
feeling
it.
I'm not
Yeah,
really
it's
missing the
totally
copy either.
okay.
The
I'm
Wichita
totally-
stores aren't striking.
I'm totally okay
Well,
with
I don't
it.
know.
But if
like-
UPS goes
like
on strike,
late
that might be an
television,
issue. If
yeah.
Amazon goes on strike, might be an issue.
No, but as far as the Hollywood writers' strike, first of all, there are people that we know, like my sister, who has not worked in 8 months.
She's
I mean,
not a
she
writer,
does,
but
it's
that's not
like-
about the strike. But that's not about the strike.
But it
Well,
affects her
It is about the strike. It
Really?
is
I
about
thought
the
it just
strike.
started.
in
Well,
May.
no, if they're not writing, there's no jobs. So
Yeah,
my
No,
sister
but-
started in
doesn't
May,
have
though.
a job.
It started
But
in May.
Oh, okay.
The
So-
Writers Guild in LA is probably the most powerful one there
Mhm.
is, because if you can't write the show, nobody can do it.
She's collateral damage.
Yeah.
I
So,
just
like,
didn't know it was going on that long.
Like
I mean-
Spirit Arrows, yeah, it's still currently going. Spirit
But,
Aero Systems, which is in Wichita, they're on strike right now. Now that's a secondary effect because they make airplane parts for Boeing. Well, if
Hmm.
Boeing ain't got no airplane parts, they ain't making no airplanes.
Yeah.
They're not repairing airplanes. They're not
not doing
maintaining.
shit.
Or making them either.
Or putting them
Yeah.
together, or putting screws where they go. Whatever they do at
Yeah.
Boeing.
Yeah. So yes, it does seem like there's a lot of, and again, this is all happening very recently. Some might say over the last, say 3 years. There's a lot of animosity, and a lot of chaos, and a lot of confusion going on in the world, and I think we can find direct effects with a lot of things that we've talked about before that may not necessarily involve unions, but are the unions and the strikes
man.
and lockouts are all effects of these other things. We could definitely do more on this, but that's all I got to say.
Oh, that's all it goes to.
That's all I got to say about that.
That's all I got to say
Well-
about that, Lieutenant Dan. Ice
Yeah,
cream.
very good. Well done.
Well, I think that's
So,
I think
What
that's the
was
fire
Jackson,
alarm.
right?
That's the fire alarm.
Is it the fire alarm?
don't pull that union registered
I
fire
think-
alarm without the proper authorization from both your rep and
The
your
NLRB.
immediate- Oh my God!
Follow the
yeah.
rules.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I
So I
think
think
we're
what
gonna lock.
Jack-
I'm gonna
right
lock you
now-
guys out until next Tuesday. How about that?
Okay. We're
Okay, I'm
locked out
gonna
till
go
next
run out of
Tuesday,
the
so I
building.
guess we'll see you then. Okay, bye everyone.
Well, I think what Jack would like to say right now is I think we've been on for a little while, and toodles, folks.
Sorry.